Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art2Life podcast. I've been thinking a lot about health and vitality and energy and just really noticing those in my own life. And one of the things that I've realized that I think you might relate to and has been a game changer for me in my life is nature. I mean, I know that in my art, this is what is for sure inspiring it. But just in terms of, understanding the connection of nature and emotional openness, health, vitality, and creativity, there's a lot here. And I think it's so easy to overlook the importance of nature and being in it and how you stay in it and what happens. It's like, why does it feel so amazing? So my hope here is just, I've been kind of researching it and thinking about it a lot because I've spent a lot of time in nature, and it's just something that if I don't, I'm not able to pull off my art really, or anything. My energy, just everything depletes. So why is that? And my hope for this conversation is that this might prompt you to dip back into nature. I think a lot of what I'll be sharing today is universal. I think this is hardwired into our DNA. We live on a planet. We live in nature, and we're not as connected to it as we once were. So that's where I'm going to go today. Thanks so much for being here. What I got early on was I found my performance, my ability to make art. Early on, I was an illustrator and I was making many, many pictures every week. I think I do like 5, 7 assignments. And so every day I was cranking this work out. And there's something that happens, and I know you guys can relate to this, any creator, anyone who goes away and makes something, often it's solitary and you're in a space and you're in the same space and you're staring at the thing in front of you and you're creating it, you're making it. And it's pretty great, but when you do this a lot, at least for me, it gets weird. It gets, the world gets smaller, you start second guessing yourself, and I just found that it was just hard. I just felt, I used to call my friend and we would talk about this, like this problem of how do we work alone? How do we do this? I mean, when we got out of art school, it was such a social experience and we were making art. It was just the best. But then once we all went our separate ways and we just had to get apartments and we're living in small spaces and we're by ourselves trying to do this activity, it just got really weird. And so I would be okay if I would take a break. So what I would do is I would work all day and I would literally feel myself, I mean, I was into it and I was having fun, but I would feel my energy start to deplete. And what I would do is I would stop, and the thing that would recharge me was I would go into nature. And specifically, I would meet people at 5 o'clock and I would do a run with people in nature, on trails, different places. And almost every time I'd be driving to this run and I was just kind of depleted. I didn't really feel like going. I didn't feel like talking to anyone. It's a smaller version of yourself where you start to feel more and more isolated. And very different than how I would have started the day, right? I'm awake, I'm fired up, the music's playing, and then it would just be like you slowly wear down. So I would get to these runs pretty tired, and but then I put the shoes on, get outside, stand out there, and the magic would start happening. And this is still today. I find getting out there, meeting people, go do a run, or going by yourself, doesn't even matter. You get out of your car, you're standing there, and your senses start to become engaged. And the light is different, the sound, the smell, the wind, And literally, I could feel myself lifting. And then I would go, and people would show up, and you start talking, and suddenly you completely forget about your challenges, and you're joking around, and you're running, which is hard, and then you're seeing things and running downhills and uphills, and or hiking, whatever it may be. But I'd end up feeling amazing and so absolutely recharged. And and then I was good. I was good for the people in my life. I was good for my kids. I could help make dinner. I was just felt $1,000,000. Wake up in the morning, feel amazing, and then start again. And then I'd get worn down again. And so there's this connection between creativity, where nature can fuel it, but the very act of doing the thing, I have found, like, requires almost you to participate in nature and go out in it. And all the people I know, this is true for them. Those walks are so absolutely essential. There is I really believe there's an opening of the heart when you go into nature. And I have a lot of kind of ideas as to why that is, but I think it really has a lot to do with just, there's this component of beauty that it's really subjective. Beauty is something that some people find this beautiful or not, but the fact that you're surrounded by things that move you, that are inspiring, it just lifts you up to that, right? You just soak that up. And I find that really, really the magic of what's going on for me. When I'm in nature, I start seeing things that make me, first I see the things, I'm moved by the things, and it could be like light on the trail. I was running the other day and coming up this big hill, and it was early in the morning. It was on this trail called the Dipsy Trail, which is this incredible trail that we have out here that goes out. It's a 7-mile trail and it goes out to the coast. But I was coming back on it, and it's really hilly and steep, and I was going up this thing, running pretty slow, and there's all these steps, but the light was coming, and it was shining down and the trail went along through these trees and bushes, so it was almost like a tunnel. And then the light it was still low because the sun was just coming up, and the light was pouring down, and it was like this gorgeous golden tunnel. And I literally I stopped and took a picture of this thing because it was so beautiful. It's literally like stops you in your tracks, and then that feeling, and I'm telling you the story now because I couldn't stop thinking about it, it kind of starts filtering into everything. It starts filling you up and starts being expressed in ways. When we feel more alive, we tend to want to express that. There's an overflow of emotion that kind of comes from this. And this is what can happen in nature, whether you're walking on a beach. I mean, all the challenging times in my life, I remember when my father passed, I headed to the beach. I sat on the beach. I just needed that. I just needed that to kind of hold me in that time of grief. And so it's like this partnership in a way, which we can tend to think of these things as separate. Yeah, I like going running, or I like going walking. Sure, I like going on a hike, and I like doing art, But I'm suggesting that there's a real connection between our creativity and what we're able to make, what we're able to pull off. And when I say that, I mean we have an energy, we have a frequency with which we can occupy, which we can hold, that makes it possible to make the amazing work, that gives us confidence to go out on a limb and try something. Energy to go against, maybe people don't like our work, or maybe it hasn't sold in a long time, right? Like, where do we gain that, we restore ourselves? When do we get that extra benefit? How do we find that? How do we get that energy? Nature is like a creative muse. And when we're in it, I think part of it for me, and it's something that I'm very aware of, has to do with color. I'm very aware of this because I'm teaching color constantly. And which reminds me, I should be starting to work here. And if you're listening at home and you've got some art materials going, I invite you to make some art. The thing that I'm teaching in color, the principles of color, have everything to do with nature. So primarily, like what I'm talking about, in fact, everything I'm teaching in Art2Life, everything, all this idea of contrasts and differences, and especially color, are derived from nature. So specifically harmony, right? Color harmony. What we think feels beautiful, what colors feel restorative to us, what do we like to surround ourselves, what do we want to put on our walls in our house, what kind of colors, and then why that is so incredible when we're in nature, walking around, surrounded. It's like, God or whoever has just dialed in the colors so beautifully. Nature, the colors in nature are totally harmonized, meaning that the colors in nature have all the other colors in them. And so we don't get, a strawberry is not like bright red, even though we might think it's bright red. It is kind of it's a red, but it's red made with green. It's a red made with purple. It's got violet. It's got yellow in it. It's got greens, And so this is what we're experiencing when we're in nature. We're surrounded by beauty and the colors, and it moves us when we see it. So I'm interested in making those colors. So that's what I'm recreating in my art, right? It stimulates your creativity because it's showing you almost what's possible. And it's kind of, you might not even be aware of it. It's just being in it. You just have to drop yourself into this environment, and you just almost start soaking it up. And it's those memories and just experiences that I believe we start pulling out when we're making our art. A lot of what I teach is, making art and being spontaneous and following our intuition. But what happens is things happen in our art, and we start to notice certain things we like. Things stick out to us. And I believe the things that stick out, the things that we notice when we're making something, has to do with our experiences of what we've seen before, and we've taken it in. We stand there and we learn about the beautiful blue at dusk. We feel the amazing colors in a field, right? The way the orange light hits snow and creates blue shadows. Like all that, I think, is just, when we're open, we soak it in. It comes into us, and then it comes out in the art. When I'm in nature, and this is, this idea that the health benefits of being in nature, right? You've heard of the forest bathing, right? The Shinrin Yoko, right? This idea that we just, like, this is a whole strategy for health. This is how to maintain wellness, is to just be in nature. And there's studies about this. You just need to immerse yourself, just lay on a tree and experience nature. And really what it is it's like meditation. It's just presence. listening, experiencing the auditory sensation of nature, visual, smell, the feel of things, like all of those are restorative. I just love this idea of forest bathing. When we're in nature, and this relates a lot to what I'm teaching and my approach to art and life, there is experiences we have that are heightened because of the tendency in nature, in the natural world, to have things come together that are very different, to have boundaries between things, borders between things. We have, the oasis in the desert, right? A lush area next to a barren area. We have slick rock next to, bushes. We have dirt next to granite. We have rushing river water, next to big boulders. It's always the juxtapositions of these differences that it's like the food, it's like the nourishment, the beaches, right? That edge of where land meets the sea. It's incredible that the ocean is 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles wide. It's just full of water. And then you can walk along the edge, 20 feet beside this thing, it stops. And there's waves, or there's tides, and there's stones, and then it transitions into land. And they're completely different worlds. And we walk along that beach and we feel alive because we're surrounded, we're living in this powerful difference. I mean, that's why we go to these places. We travel there, we go on vacation there. We go because it makes us feel alive, right? And the idea in art, right, to make a powerful picture or anything, is you bring those differences together. It's similar to the harmonized color that we experience in nature. You can bring that into your art, but you can bring these differences into your art as well, right? Where dark meets light, where something spontaneous meets something very controlled, where something very big bumps into something very small. These differences that naturally occur in nature, I think, are really one of the big parts of why it's so restorative. This forest bathing, there was a 2010 study by Japanese researchers found that time spent in forests boosts the immune system and reduces feelings of anger, anxiety, and depression. Like, I have done so many trips, backpack trips, long runs, 10 days hiking in the Alps, Mont Blanc, and I attribute these to some of the happiest times of my life. And it wasn't because I was accomplishing something, or it was just that I just felt so damn good. And it's because of that. Just being in those environments is so, so powerful. Beethoven, right? Like, so many artists, so many writers, like that morning walk is the same thing, right? He took these afternoon walks all the time, and many of his pieces were inspired by these walks. But this is so common. Just walking, going out in nature is so totally amazing. And it's what, as a creator, you can build in to your practice. In researching this and trying to kind of get my head around it, I came across this study. It's called the 3-Day Effect by David Strayer, and he is a cognitive psychologist. And he did this study and found that after 3 days spent in the wilderness, people's cognitive function and creativity increased by 50%. Now, I don't know how anyone possibly measures that totally, but I kind of believe it. I mean, I don't know if it's 50%, but it's felt. It's substantial. Most of the challenges, if I go out on a run, if I go out walking, if I go out, just leave the things behind. And I think that's a big part of it. I am filled, I am juiced, and then I use that energy, that I apply it to the problem at hand, and I just get answers. I think, being in nature, but I also think, and I describe it this way. People say, oh, why do what's running for you? And it's like, I just like moving through nature. That's what I'm doing. I'm not trying to win races or anything like that. For me, it is just moving through landscape, seeing and experience something different, and then going around the corner and discovering something new. This study was done with outward bound participants. They found that it reboots the brain and help people think more clearly, which is absolutely true. This part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part, the part that you get home and your eyebrow, your brow is furrowed because you've been thinking so much. Like when I've been in my head a lot, it's just super tiring. That is what is reduced when you go into nature. There isn't anything that does that to you there. You don't have a problem with a redwood tree. It's just something kind of magical about the fact that part of your brain is relaxed. And this is what this 3-day effect, they discovered this, that is absolutely reduced. And what we're doing in our life all the time is problem solving, is trying to get to the DMV in time and worrying about whether this is going to be happening or not, or paying for that or this. It's all prefrontal cortex. And it's not the best place for us to be in terms of being creative. It really is incumbent on us, if we want to make things easier for ourselves, if we want to make our best creations, if we want to be our most express ourselves, we need to drop down and be in more the open hearted place. And it's literally, you can think of it as, you can feel the pressure, and then you can drop that down into your heart, into the center of your being. And it's from that place that you can make connections. You're no longer being literal. You're free. You can be spontaneous. You can let go of things. There's not as much pressure, and it's quite relaxed. This is what nature can provide us. This is what's at stake. And if we ignore it, and I'm talking to myself here, if I get so busy, and I've done this before, that I just have to cut out everything and I just have to just be making all the time, it's really not fun, and it doesn't work, and it's very time consuming, and the results, it is the opposite of flow, totally the opposite of flow. So I want to kind of just go over a few ways of doing this that I found that I think this might be helpful, ways to stay and connect to nature, especially when we get really busy, right? We can't all necessarily just take all this time off. But so here's what I've done, and I kind of work out going to places. Like if I'm going to see a friend, or I've got to drive somewhere. And by the way, the car is like the worst. It's this complete antithesis of this. It's like you got to be driving, you got to find where to park it, you got to lock it. So it's just really prefrontal cortex. But what I'll do is I'll go to a place and I will park deliberately kind of far away, where parking is easy, knowing that I get to walk, right? If I'm in a beautiful area, and I'll I'll set that up. So I'm setting it up. So I'm parking farther away. So part of my time is spent in nature. It's just because that's how I'm getting there. And you can adjust how far away you park. So you're just fitting that into your day. It's not a scheduled thing. The other thing I do, and I mentioned it, is, I combine the social with nature. And, I love talking to people and seeing people, but instead of going to a restaurant, which is fun, but I will meet them for a walk. And the best part of it is it's great to see people and it's great to kind of go out there, but invariably you arrive, and I try to arrive kind of early, and you get out of the car and you're waiting and you're by yourself. And it's these moments of where, the in-between moments, waiting for somebody to arrive and being in this beautiful place, literally can start shifting your experience, opening you up. It can be like 5 minutes. I find that early morning is especially powerful for me. And I think it's because my brain is not filled with a bunch of information yet, right? Like early dawn, getting up and going outside, just looking outside, being there for when the sun comes up, just watch the sun come up. Your brain's clear and you can just drop in and feel so much from just that short time experience. I also will design my projects to incorporate this study, I might want to do, I'm going to justify going and looking at the colors in the desert, for example, the blooms, right? We have these massive blooms in the spring in the deserts that are amazing. They only last a week or two because they get a little bit of rain, and oh my God, Anza Borrega, these deserts, Death Valley, they're usually just completely barren, but suddenly for 2 weeks, it's incredible. All the wildflowers, they just come up, and they know they only have like a week to grow and spread the seed because they're just going to be baked real quick. So it's very fierce and it's extraordinarily beautiful. So I will go to that. Literally, it's like a business expense. I will go there to see those colors so I can take stock of it. I'm photographing the colors. I'm cataloging the colors. I'm interacting with the environment. And then that becomes what I use to make the work. And I bring that into the work. So my art is a study of nature, one step removed. It is absolutely nature-based. And I love it, and it keeps me going back for more. So that's a really good way to kind of think about it and to participate in it. Don't think of it as something separate. Try to connect it. If you love cooking, right, which I do, like, even going to a farmer's market where it's outside and there's all those parts of the natural world brought together in baskets, all the tomatoes, all the herbs. I mean, those peaches, all of that, right? Like, it's all part of nature. That is such a great experience compared to going, rushing through that Safeway store that, with a bad lighting and, going at 11 o'clock at night because you didn't have time, right, to shop. Boy, I'm loving this texture making tool right here. This is like a meditation practice. It's about presence at the end of the day. And nature can be a meditation practice. It's doing a similar thing because when you're in it, you start to sense yourself more. You feel your sense more. You become more aware. And this is also, this is exactly what's happening when we're really in our art making. We're present. We're more aware of what's happening to ourselves, how we're feeling, because we have something that we're looking at, that we're making, that's coming out. as we're feeling, and we can see ourselves better. And this is something that also occurs in nature, right? When you're not surrounded by a million buses and cars and noises, and you're more solitary and you're more just in nature, it's so crazy, but you can feel yourself more. So anyway, I hope this was kind of like got the wheels turning about this connection between creativity, emotional openness, and nature, right? Like that they're absolutely connected, and that maybe if you're struggling in your practice or things are kind of feeling flat, maybe it's not at all the things you're making or what you're involved in. You're just needing to restore, you're needing to fill yourself up more, and maybe nature might be a way you can do that. You guys, thanks so much for being here. I will see you on the next episode of the Art2Life podcast. You guys, I'll have a link in the show notes. I have a vlog that I do every Sunday where I'm actually sharing a lot of tips around art making, creativity, business, and that is free and really cool. We've got a lot of amazing people there. So if you're interested in joining that, I encourage you to do so. There'll be links in the show notes. You guys, thanks so much. I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.